You want to know everything about our new next generation data grid available now from TMS Software. I am Bruno and I am going to guide you through all features and capabilities of this grid and how you can start using it in your projects in this video series. In this introduction, first a brief word about why we developed this new FNC data grid. Our focus was on delivering a high performance grid that handles high data volumes with specific features such as handling master detail configurations, multi-column grouping, specific filtering and sorting in connection with bound data, and of course all this in a architecture that is optimized for memory usage. And on top of that, as all our FNC controls are capable of, to run natively directly within VCL applications and behave as a true VCL component, and the same for a FireMonkey application where it behaves as a FireMonkey application and can as such be used in Windows, macOS, Linux, Android, iOS applications, and finally also ready for TMS Web Core, so you can also use this data grid in a Web Core application. Let's go and have a look at the IDE, and I will show you how you get started to use this next generation data grid. And this is our Delphi 12.2 IDE, where we will have a look at the data grid. We'll do it this time from a FireMonkey application. That means that this sample that we will be creating here for you will be able to run on Windows, Mac, iOS, Android, and Linux. We get access to the data grid component by filtering in the tool palette on data grid. We see the data grid, but we see also the components that are related to the data grid and actually add extra functionality for our data grid. That includes exporting to a PDF file, printing the grid, but also binding it to a data set via the database adapter, and also import and export in an Excel file. That is all included and available from the components associated with the data grid. When you dropped the grid on the form, what you see is some sample data that is just some sample to give you already an impression of how the grid could look like. And you see this helper design time toolbar here on the left, from where you can also quickly access things such as enabling sorting and filtering, which we will use for this example. If we double click the grid, we get access to the columns collection editor, and that means that also on a column basis we can configure the grid like we want it. And so if we go and have a look at all the possibilities to configure on a column level in the grid, we see things like the type. We can select an additional type of control that we add to a grid column, like a checkbox in this case, but we can also select a button. So there are different options that we can use to customize columns in the grid, and we can also control the appearance in the column. And for example, here in the normal layout, when I change the text alignment, I can change it to right aligned, for example. We have access to colors, fonts, and so on. Many options to configure on a column basis via the columns editor. Another important property is the options property that you will typically find yourself using. And here we have under options bounding, for example. We can enable bounding with one property. Here under bounding we have access to how calculations are being performed in the grid, like column sum calculations, for example, what is enabled or not enabled with respect to clipboard handling, grouping, filtering, editing, how the grid should behave in response to the mouse, keyboard. All these things can be configured in the options property and are neatly organized under that property. For this example here, we will add some data to the grid, and we will add the data via a procedure. We will call that procedure populate grid. Let the code auto expand, and I prepared a code snippet to fill the grid. This is the code snippet. Make sure that we call this code to initialize the grid. And what we do here is setting, first of all, the row count, the column count, and then access the header cells of columns via this cells property that allows you to access the cells via a string. And here you can see already 3 methods to access cells: access it as strings, access it as booleans, or also integers, float. This is all possible. Finally, what we do here is on a column basis apply the formatting that it should format the information in the cell as a datetime. And we finish by calling auto size grid, and auto size grid will adapt the column size to fit the text that is found in a column. So let's run this application and see how it behaves at runtime. And this is the result. We can see that the filter icon is immediately displayed as we have enabled filtering, but we have also enabled sorting, so sorting is immediately out of the box available. When we click the filter icon, you can see the filter drop down. You see the unique values in that column. You can also invoke sorting from this filter drop down, and you can select all kinds of filter conditions to perform filtering in the grid. So this is how it behaves in a FireMonkey application. You can run cross-platform. I also want to quickly show you how you can do exactly the same, but that in a web application. So therefore, I'm creating a new web core application, and let's also drop the data grid on the form. Let's enable filtering and sorting as well, and let's add the same code to this web application. Also the populate grid method that we auto expand and that we copy and paste from here. Exactly the same code, 100% identical, and let's run it from the IDE. So now it's being compiled to a JavaScript application that runs immediately out of the browser, and of course I should call the populate grid method that we have written. So I add from here populate grid, and then we will see the exact same configuration as we had in the FireMonkey application, but that in a web application. So now you can see it is running, and we have exactly the same behavior. Editing was enabled, so we can also perform the editing right out of the browser. So far for our first introduction to the data grid that is available in the FNC UI pack, can be used in VCL applications, behaves there as a native VCL component. Also in a FireMonkey application, behaves as a FireMonkey control. And finally, for web applications, you can also use it, and by this use it directly out of the browser. Keep following this series, subscribe to our feed, and we will guide you through all the capabilities of our new FNC data grid in this series. Stay tuned.